It's 5:37, perfect time to do a sculpting tutorial. Hey guys, so in my past couple videos, I've been kind of doing a lot of critiques on terrible athlete bronze statues. Make sure you go watch those videos if you haven't already. I had a pretty good time making them. A lot of people have been commenting, they kind of wanted me to do breakdowns and sculpting tutorials. So yeah, let's talk about sculpting realistic eyes. Alright guys, so this is kind of like my basic template I made for this video, and to kind of give you guys guidelines and proportional guidelines when I eventually make the eye around it. So right here I have the bridge of the nose. I think that's the bridge, I don't know. That's the nose, and then that is the brow line right there. So that's gonna give you a good guide as to like where you can actually put the eye in here. So first thing I want to talk about before I get started on this is actually talk about some of the tools you guys might need. Now, one tool you need for just general sculpting is a pin tool, something like this, something sharp, and you can pretty much get away with everything using a pocket knife, but there's a key difference between texture work when using a tool like this versus using a pocket knife. A pocket knife's edge is really sharp, which is good, but the fall off is not very subtle and not very curved, so it's super flat. At least this knife is. You could probably get another knife that has a blade that has a curved fall off. What you see here with this tool is that yes, it's sharp on one edge, but then on the other edge it kind of just curves around. Now the difference that this gives you is when you're doing texture work and like skin textures and everything, the pocket knife just makes a super like drastic line here for your textures, and the clay around it doesn't form into the groove you make. Whereas if you use a tool, you can kind of angle it and you get some curves that happen around the mark you made. This makes skin textures look way more real because skin is obviously something that's malleable, so it curves in with wrinkles and everything it interacts with. It just gives you a much better end result. Now, you can still make this work, and I'm definitely an advocate for not needing tools, especially for most cases and beginners especially. You can make the pocket knife work, you just have to be super experienced with it and understand how to use it in a very subtle manner. So tools aside, you also need a couple things to help you indicate circles and pupils and irises and all that, and for that I just have a battery and a pen. That honestly depends on the proportion that you're going to be working with for this sculpture. So, but first of all, let's just talk about this piece. Where do I start? Well, first things you want to do is figure out where you want to place the eye. Now, if this is the nose and this is the brow right here, the eye is going to be placed somewhere around here. It's going to be higher up compared to where the cheek is, so you want to place it closer to the brow, and then you have all the space to work with. And the first thing you want to do is make an eye socket. Again, just go based off what nature has done. And in your skull, if you remove the eyeball, everyone has an eye socket, and that's exactly what you want to do. Now, the depth of the eye socket and the width of the eye socket, you essentially want to make it as long as wide as your brow. And then the depth depends on how big you eventually want to make your eyeball. And this is something that you can change later on. Now, once you are here, I just like removed some clay, and this is really all you need when it comes to depth, because then you can go ahead and add clay around later as well. The first thing you want to do is get a piece of clay and kind of make like an almond shape. Now, you can do the full spherical eyeball, but honestly, you can get away with just doing like an almond shape. There we go. Honestly, you can make this work right here. And you're just gonna place it in there, and the first thing you wanna make sure is you place it a bit higher. Again, it's gonna be more tucked in to the brow than where the cheek is gonna be. And the only thing you wanna check is to check its depth and make sure it's not coming out further than where the nose is. That depth is really going to come in handy later when you are trying to add your eyelids. Okay, now you are here, and the next thing you want to do is make like a circle indicator. So to do that, I'm just going to take this battery and kind of lightly mark where the circle is. But something like this, something to just give you a guideline, and then you want to take your tool and define it a bit more, maybe make it a bit larger. There we go. And then once you have a good outline, you just want to remove some clay. Not too much, but just enough to where you have the mark. and you can tell the difference. There we go. Honestly, that's pretty good right there. I'm gonna move the light here. That is pretty good right there. I'm pretty happy with that. So from here, what you want to do is work on eyelids. Now, the first eyelid I always work on is the one on the bottom. Let's move this for a second. This is going to be the overall shape of the bottom eyelid. So the top, the part that is going to be touching the eye, you don't want super curved. And again, this is something that you're going to change as you place it on to the actual final thing, but you don't want it super curved, and that is going to be the thinnest part of your eyelid. And then over here, that's going to be a bit thicker. This is the part that's going to be facing the cheek, and it's going to be more curved and coming down. You're just trying to get as much done as quickly as possible, and this is the easiest way to do it. You're obviously, if you want to later, you can remove clay and add clay and do all of that, but for now, this is the shape you have, and then you're just going to like lightly place it down and kind of adjust it as you go. So I think I need to make it a bit more curved, just looking at it right now. Yeah, that is a shape you can work with and add it on later. Now, you want to make this part thicker than that part, because if this part is as thin as the part touching the eye, then when you place it down, it's all just gonna sink, and then the eye is gonna look like it's protruding out, like the person has a thyroid condition, and you don't want that. So this is gonna be the bottom eyelid, and you're just gonna set it aside for now, and then start working on the top eyelid. Now for the top eyelid, it is gonna be a little bit different. Just gonna put that aside now. It's gonna be way longer. Not way longer, but it is gonna be longer than the bottom eyelid, and it is gonna be thinner. You're kind of looking for a shape like this. Yeah, kind of looking for a shape like this, and obviously, honestly, just looking at it right now, I kind of made it way too thick in terms of like this dimension rather than this dimension. But comparing it to the bottom eyelid, it's obviously going to be longer, and the idea is, if you look at a face, the way the eyelids kind of attach to the face is the top eyelid always goes over the bottom one. So that's why you make it longer, so it just comes over naturally. All right, now bring this back and then kind of see where everything lands. All right, once you do that, place the bottom eyelid first and kind of measure. Make sure everything is where you want it to be. I kind of want this to be pointing out a little bit more. So I'm gonna do that real quick. There we are. And then you take the top eyelid and place it in. And as you do this more and more, you're just gonna get more comfortable with the proportions and everything, and this is just gonna become much quicker. I'm gonna push the brow down. Now, from here, all you really got to do is smooth everything, just super lightly. Not too much, because you're gonna go back in, remove some clay, add some clay. But just take the edge of your thumb and just start smoothing. And there we are. That already looks pretty good. Now from here, there's a couple things you can do. You can go into texture work, or you can go into like pupil details and stuff like that. So let's do pupil details real quick. You're just gonna take a pen or a pencil or really anything that is long and has a consistent like round shape, and you're gonna go in the middle or wherever you want your character to be looking, and just press it down until you get a circle that's pretty deep, just like this. Now, how wide that circle is, how narrow it is, honestly depends on your character and who you're sculpting. Pupil dilation can be a thing, so keep that in mind. But from here, that should give you a pretty good starting point to go back in with your pen tool. And what you want to do here is you take your pen tool and then you just make some lines and ridges coming out from the inner circle, going all the way to the larger circle that you marked earlier. Some of them are going to be deeper, some of them are going to be wider, and you're just going to go all around. You don't want to be too drastic with it. You want to be a little bit subtle. And this really just takes the eye to the next level and the sculpture to the next level and just makes it look way more believable and real. There you go. That's pretty decent, but yeah. All right, from here, you really don't have much left. All you really have to do is add some clay in certain parts, especially like for the brow right here. I want to add some clay, so I'm just gonna take some clay here. Sometimes when the person is older, their brow starts to droop and overlap with their higher eyelid, so you can do that. I'm gonna do that because it's easier. The shapes are more defined, so you guys can see the demonstration a bit better. But essentially this is what happens. And then you just wanna blend everything else. So I'm gonna add some more clay there to just make it easier to blend in. And most of the things you guys want to do and have to do can be done with your fingers. Like you see me using different parts of my thumb to maneuver and manipulate this clay. That just comes with practice and knowing how to use your fingers. Okay, I am pretty happy with that. From here, there's a couple things you can do. You can add more to the cheek just to make it stand out a bit more. Obviously, if this was like a full face, just imagine a full face here, you'd want to add more clay down here just to bring that level up compared to where the eye is. So I'm just gonna do that real quick, just like this, and then everything kind of blends in to the nose, just like that. I think I'll do a face tutorial later, so I won't really spend too much time with that, but essentially this is what you wanna do. And then for skin texture, so you wanna take that pin tool I talked about earlier, focus, there we go. And first thing you wanna do is do like deep, slightly deep lines to indicate where wrinkles start and end, just like this. And you don't want too many of them, you just want a little bit, because these are gonna act as guides for more detail down the road. You want some for the upper eyelid as well. And the thing with the upper eyelid is the ones that are surrounding the top of the eye right here, they're gonna be pretty subtle, but as you get closer to the brow, they're gonna get deeper, stuff like that. And then you take your finger, kind of smooth everything out. And then once you have that, you go back in and then use the sharper end of your pen tool to add super, super subtle marks that kind of crisscross and overlap. And honestly, the more you do this, the better it's gonna look. So you can do one pass at it, 2 passes, 3 passes, and just keep going and going, but keeping it subtle the entire time. And then you get that really interesting and complex like skin texture and pore detail and everything. And then go back in with your finger and smooth everything out. And honestly, skin texture it could be its own like video series, because the texture of skin varies on what part of the body it is. So I can honestly change it per body part. But for the eye right now, this is essentially what you want. You just want a bunch of lines. Especially for like wrinkles and lines and skin wrinkles and stuff like that, the direction of it and where you place it and how you place it relates a lot back to like drapery. I made a video about drapery and clothing and cloth and stuff like that in art. And it relates because just like drapery, everything has a beginning point and everything has an end point. So wrinkles start from one corner of the eye, they come all the way down, right? To the bottom of like your eye socket right here. And then they go all the way back up to the other corner of your eye. Everything just kind of follows each other. It's just not continuous. So they kind of break off up in the middle, and then that is where you add like more grooves and new grooves and stuff like that. But as you can see, layering clay together on top of each other really adds another level of just natural dimension to the sculpture. I have a light here, and a big part of sculpture when I talk about it is lighting. And as you can see, like where I move the light, the clay naturally projects shadows onto the other parts of the sculpture, and that makes it just look way more natural and way more real, as opposed to if I was just to, for example, down here real quick, carve an eye shape and try to make that work. That's something I talked about in the Cristiano Ronaldo bad bronze statue critique that I did. So be sure to go watch that. Also, the clay I'm using is Monster Clay. It is an oil and wax hybrid. No, this is not a sponsored ad or video. I do love their products, but they do not pay me. I genuinely just love to use their products. It does not air dry. Put it in the microwave, it softens up a little, and then you can do a bunch of stuff with it. But that is the clay I'm using in this video. Be sure to check them out. Again, no one's paying. All right, guys. Yeah, that's pretty much it. How to make a realistic eye, kind of super quick tutorial. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know in the comments what you guys want to see next. like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell so you're notified every single time I post a video. And yeah, how did I do? Did I do a good job? Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell. And as always, have a great day. I'm gonna go to the gym. Should be like 6:30 now. Bye.